You're known as T.I., T.I.P., King of the South. You're known as an entrepreneur, a businessman. You're known as so many different things. You have so many different titles.
Father,
Father, I was just
husband.
gonna say, why is it more important than others?
Why is father?
Family man.
Man, family man, father, husband. I think is so important because that's the root of everything else you do. You know, I think that's where a lot of my inspiration come from. That's where a lot of my focus group kind of, you know, just getting input from before it reaches the masses of the public. It got to make it out the house.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The concept, the idea, and they motivate me. They all motivate me. They show me different parts of myself. All of my children, they all motivate me. They all show me different parts of myself. Each and every last one of my children have different pieces of my personality. Okay. And it's kind of weird, you know, just like you said, I'm known in so many different things. I have so many different temperaments, and I can see all of them in all of my children, you know, and that's inspiring, that's motivating.
And what does it mean to you that some of your children are also following your footsteps in music?
Man, my children following my footsteps in music is probably some of the most heart-wrenching news. I mean, I just know how treacherous the business is, and I know how pure my children's hearts are. And it just, you know, it pains me, but I'm also honored that I motivated them in a way, okay, you know what I mean, to do it, and to do it so differently. You know, each of them that you say following my footsteps, but they're going above and beyond to make sure that they set themselves apart and navigate their own path. And that, you know, that's humbling. That's humbling to me that they were around me long enough to pick up certain nuances of me, but add their own flavor, accoutrements to it.
Okay.
You know, to where it represents them as an individual.
Okay. Now, the Atlanta Hawks just announced that you and your son Damani are going to perform next week.
Yeah.
How does that feel to do that with him?
Man, it's amazing. It's amazing because really, you know, man, Damani is probably one of the most thoughtful artists that I can say I've had the pleasure of knowing personally.
Okay.
You know, I put Damani up there with Andre 3000, with, you know, Sci-Hi, with people like Mos Def,
okay,
you know, people like J. Cole, and Kendrick, just because he's not rapping for the purpose of just saying stuff. He's actually projecting messages that he feels should be conveyed to the world, and he's turned down opportunities. I'm talking about real money, you know what I mean? Like north of $100,000. He turned down opportunities for the integrity of his art, you know what I mean? Because the opportunity didn't fit his messaging. So for him to take advantage of this opportunity, to me, says a lot about, you know, what he thinks of me, what he thinks of the Hawks, and what he, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, it's insightful.
Okay. Now, you opened this restaurant 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But this is not something that's been done overnight. Can you talk about the process of opening it? I know this is a long journey.
Well, this is close to 3 years in the works. Okay. You know, we started this project, I think, November or December of 2019. Okay. And we hit a lot of hiccups along the way. Of course, the pandemic threw a monkey wrench in our plans. A couple times cars ran through the building, you know, just haphazardly, you know. In the midst of our progress, I guess on a rainy day, people couldn't see. Cars ran through the front door, and a car ran through that wall behind you right there. 4 months after one another. And We just kept working. You know what I'm saying? We kept working. We exceeded the budget that we had expected to spend time and time again, but we kind of got 75% done and was like, well, we can't stop here, and just kept working and kept working. And we collectively wanted to present an experience to the city, an experience to this community especially, that isn't present right now, that we felt wasn't present. And we wanted to celebrate the most significant contributors to the culture that we now know as trap music, in a way that was celebratory but still authentic, in a way that really represented the essence of who we are as a city and what these artists mean to the city.
Okay, I was just gonna get into that. When you walk in, you see Jeezy, you see Young Thug, you see Gucci, you see so many different people.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? You have that same display in the Trap Music Museum.
Yes.
You have all these different pioneers. What does that mean to you personally?
Well, personally, to me, what it means is that's the essence of what this city represents to me. Of course, Atlanta becoming a major metropolis, growing in every direction. A lot of people moving here, and you know, I know big business, Microsoft is moving down the street on Bankhead, and I know that there are some that would like to have big corporations represent this city. You know, we have Delta, we have Home Depot, you know what I'm saying? We have like huge corporations, Porsche, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the who's who, whether it's political or whether it's business, a lot of people would like for those corporations to represent this city. However, before those corporations, most of them, not Delta, not Home Depot, but you know, before those corporations decided to come to this city, the Microsofts, the Porsches, and so on and so forth, we were here in culture. This culture made people want to move here. When people moved here, and commerce came here, revenue came here. When that happened, then these other big corporations saw, you know, us as, you know, I guess, appropriate or acceptable in a sense. But we were always beating the pavement. We were always spreading the word throughout the world about the beauty of this city called Atlanta. And I want to represent the people who were doing it first. You know what I mean? And I think that's what, you know, these people, and that's what this place means to me.
When you drive around Northside Drive in different parts of Atlanta, you see the gentrification at a crazy level. You see all these condos popping up.
Sure.
What does that mean to keep this in Bankhead where you're from?
Well, to me, as a businessman, an entrepreneur, as you mentioned earlier, when I see all those condos, I see people that need servicing. You know, I see people who gonna need somewhere to eat, drink, party, hang out, kick it, you know, to celebrate. You know, they gonna need a place to spend their time. And everybody don't wanna drive all the way to Buckhead. Everybody don't wanna, you know what I'm saying, be bothered with, you know, traveling down P Street. Some people wanna walk to the corner. Some people wanna, you know, Uber up the street. You know what I'm saying, and get food and get services, and that to me says I have an opportunity to serve the community, and that's what I've been doing.
Okay, now, what is your favorite dish?
What's my favorite dish here?
Yes.
Man, I would have to say salmon. The salmon, collard greens, black eyed peas. That's what that's my go-to.
Okay, and what would you recommend for anyone never been here before?
Anyone else? I mean, well, it depends on, you know, how much you want to eat. Some people, they want to eat fast because some people come and sit out on the patio, you know, just to wait on rush hour traffic to die down. You know, some of them get the salmon tacos, the sliders, but I think the lamb chops are probably our best sellers. You know, I don't eat lamb, but I offer it, and I think people love it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't think there's much on the menu. Salmon croquettes and grits also a favorite of mine. I don't think there's much that you can get here, you know, ask for here that people ain't gonna like.
Okay. Now, the Trap City Cafe has game night, karaoke night, R&B night. Went into that process of adding things that fans can really enjoy?
Just like I said, it's about offering experiences to the community. Most of the people who come here are visitors to the city, right? So we want to offer visitors to the city an authentic experience of the city. And that, is represented in many different ways. Not just, drinking and eating, but experiencing one another. When karaoke night come on and, we had Donnell Jones in here one night, and we had somebody singing Donnell Jones. So that was an experience that they took back with them. You know what I'm saying? We had somebody in here one night, we had Tamika, my wife from Escape. She was in here, somebody sang their song Tonight. You know what I mean? That's an experience that they're gonna take back with them. Comedy night, which was actually last night, one night, we were all in here. Mike Epps pops up and just, does an impromptu set. People gonna take those experiences back wherever they from with them, and that's what we like to do. That's what we want to provide to the community, and that's what we want to have represent Atlanta when people come in and move out as visitors.
Okay, now you've always been outspoken about your community, Bankhead, the West Side, Atlanta,
right?
Just in general.
The first to say it, matter of fact, like man, when I came out, I remember when people used to hide that they were from Bankhead. People used to say, "Yeah, I'm from Kyle Heights." People used to, like now it's West Midtown.
Right.
But I think that was a sense of pride when I yelled Bankhead on 106 Park, or in New York, somewhere on Hot 97, or in Cali. You know what I'm saying? When they saw me represent Bankhead in such a way, it made others in the area proud to represent the community. And and then you had others that followed behind me, like like Shawty Low. Shawty Low is the king of Bankhead still, how I see it, and I feel like that comes from a sense of pride. People who feel like, yeah, man, I'm gonna rep this community because this is something for us to be proud of, to be good, bad, and indifferent. This is something for us to be proud of, that we come from these elements, and it's gave us the moral standards and principles that we need to make it wherever we want to make it in life. I think that that's something that I hold near and dear to my heart.
Now, for a kid growing up in this neighborhood now,
Right.
to see the Trap Music Museum, to see the Trap City Cafe, to see all these black-owned restaurants, to see the new infrastructure of Atlanta, what does that mean to you? Do you think that motivates them to want to get ahead?
I hope it's inspirational and motivational. I hope, and also informative. I hope that they have the information that they need and the example set that they need to have set for them to know that anything is possible. You know what I mean? All they have to do is be willing to work hard, be willing to learn the things that they need to know, and recognize the signs around you. You know what I mean? To be able to offer something that isn't being offered right now, that only you can present to the world. I hope that that's the case. I think that, matter of fact, I don't think they have a choice. You can't be around certain energy and not be affected.
Right. Now, you also work with Killer Mike, another West Side person who opened up Bankhead Seafood, who revitalized it. I know that's been a staple in this community for a long time. What does that mean to you to do that with him as well? Man,
it's amazing for us to come together. Killer Mike and I have always been, we've always been, how do I say? I mean, I'm trying to find another way to say partners, but partners. We just weren't partners in business. We were homies, and the opportunity presented itself for me to acquire the building and the business of Bankhead Seafood. And that very evening, I happened to have run into Killer Mike and another prestigious black-owned business in the city, Magic City, and we would always talk about doing things together. And I was like, you know what? I just went into Bankhead Seafood and they asked me to buy it. And he said, for real? I said, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it. And I was like, what, you want to do it together? And he said, well, I was about to buy a Hellcat, but I guess I could take that money and we could. I was like, all right, cool. And we set out on that journey together. And after we embarked upon the mission, we just began to expound upon all the other ways we could make it better and greater for the community.
Okay. Now I'm from Providence, which is in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from very far away. I grew up in a neighborhood called Fox Point.
Okay.
That neighborhood has just been destroyed by gentrification for a long time. Now, when I see Bankhead, the same thing. What does it mean to you to have affordable housing, or to be working on an affordable housing project?
I think it's necessary. Again, what I do is I pay attention to the needs of the community, okay? I know people around my grandmama house, people around where I grew up, who have been affected by gentrification. And when I say affected, I mean the property value has rose and drove the taxes up so high to where, natives of the community can hardly afford to stay in the community. And sometimes people get tricked out of their properties and so on and so forth. So I also, because of, I guess, it was when Killer Mike and I had the opportunity to sit on the transition team for our former mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. We learned that a large percentage of people who work in Atlanta cannot afford to live in Atlanta, right? So therefore, the initiative has always been affordable housing. Now, how do you offer affordable housing? You have to be creative, because in order for you to make it affordable for people, you have to build it for less money, or you have to get, I guess, public capital. You know what I'm saying? You have to get grants and so on and so forth. And learning these things, I felt that if I could partner with people who also had an affordable housing initiative, that we could do it together and offer the something that was much needed.
Now, in terms of music, you're one of the creators of trap music. For those who don't know what that is, can you explain that?
Well, trap music is music that details the lives and lifestyle of those who were affected by the war on drugs. A lot of people would say it's just, fairy tales of a drug dealer. However, I look a little deeper into it. To me, trap music is the ability to take what the devil meant for bad and allow God to use it for good. Trap music is the stories, philosophical presentation set to music of those who have been the most affected by the war on drugs, which was a war on our people. And it was meant to dismantle communities, and in some ways it did that. However, in other ways, it created a new standard of living for generations, for some people who found an artistic expression, a way to therapeutically present their experiences and let others who were going through similar situations know that they weren't alone. That's what trap music means to me.
Okay. Now, when I was growing up, I listened to you, I listened to Ludacris, I listened to Jeezy, I listened to DMX and 50 and Jay-Z and a lot of different heavyweights.
Right on.
Now, Atlanta, like you said, is a metropolis of music.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your place in Atlanta's music?
I don't think it's my place to talk about my place
Okay.
in Atlanta music. Like, I let, the fans and the critics, let them talk about that. I'm too busy working. I'm too busy putting plays together, man. I'm too busy offering experiences to the city and the community that don't exist right now. I don't have time to worry about what other people's opinion to me is none of my business. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I just continue to do the work and to allow these visions and thoughts that I have to manifest. You know what I mean? And I can't do that looking behind me, worrying about what other people thinking about what I did yesteryear. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm too busy worrying about leaving the mark this year, next year, and the years to come.
Now, when you talk about Atlanta music, you talk about Outkast, Goody Mob, Jermaine Dupri, so many different rappers, Future, Young Thug, Lil Baby, Gucci Mane, like all these people. Yeah. Now, what does Atlanta, I know Atlanta went through a lot of different challenges getting the respect that they deserve.
Certainly.
Can you talk about any of the challenges you specifically went through?
Challenges I went through?
Just getting the respect of...
Man, it was just work. It was just work, you know what I mean? I just had to continue to present myself. I still find myself, proving myself. First is, can he do it? Then it's, can he do it again? Then it's can he continue to do it at the same level? Then it's can he come back and do it? Then it's can, you know what I mean? It's always a challenge. It's always, but if there is no challenge, if there is no adversity, you probably ain't gonna bring your best A game to the court. So I welcome all that. I welcome all that. I've been outperforming the expectations ever since I presented myself. You know what I'm saying? I said King of the South, and I meant it, and I stood on that. And here we are 21 years later, 21 going on 22 years later. Next year being the 20th anniversary of trap music. 20 plus years later, here we are still having the conversation. There was no such thing as King of the South before I said it. There was no such thing as trap music before I said it. So all those challenges only made me go harder. They only made me pull the best out of myself to present to the world.
Now, can you talk about the process that you went through to be called King of the South? I know you reached out to Goody Mob and Outkast and a lot of different people. A lot of people don't know. You reached out to a lot of people that you felt were the king.
Right.
And you asked for them, and they said yes.
Right.
Now, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so, you know, the idea of the moniker, King of the South, it came from, so I was listening to an album with my partner, KP, who was actually the reason why I had a record deal in the first place. So my partner, KP, and I were listening to a mystical album. And in the album, in one of his songs, he said, Prince of the South. And so I'm thinking to myself, I said, well, if he's the prince, who's the king? And then I looked at KP, and KP looked at me, and he said, you wouldn't. I said, like hell I wouldn't. And so that night, we were actually headed to Patchwork Studios to record my first big feature, which was a collaboration with Beanie Siegel on the Shaft soundtrack. It was a record called 2 Glock 9s. And that day was the first day I said King of the South on the record. And everybody looked at me, you know what I mean, in the studio, you know, it kind of like stopped it, like, hey, you want to take that back? I said, nah, I said what I meant. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, got their feathers ruffled a little bit. Mostly people who just kind of was, you know, kind of insecure with their own positioning, you know what I mean? But I never said I was the only king. I just let y'all know it was okay to say you were king. You don't got to be scared of nobody. You're supposed to feel like you're a king, you know what I mean? You're made in the image of God. You're actually a God, you know what I mean? So whatever the highest representation of yourself that you can, you know, present or project to the world, that's where you're supposed to be at with it. And you ain't supposed to let nobody step you down, you know, and, you know, that's the way I presented myself, and I carried that. And it never meant as much to me as it did when people said that I couldn't say it. You know what I mean? How you gonna tell me what I am? You can't never let nobody else tell you what you are, what you're supposed to represent. You know what I mean? You are who you say you are.
Right. And I know there's a lot of young kids that grow up, they look at you, they look at different celebrities, different athletes, Serena Williams, LeBron James, Steph Curry.
Sure.
And they grow up in this tough environment, and they see you guys, and they get inspired instantly. Can you talk about your place in terms of inspiration, inspiring other people?
Man, a good brother of mine, Nipsey Hussle, he said the highest human act is to inspire. You know what I mean? So if I can do something and it inspires someone else to do something greater, then I think that's a transference of energy that shows that your time on earth, you know, it wasn't in vain. You actually did something with the time God gave you on this big ball of dirt. You know what I mean? And that's how, you know, I think that if I have inspired, and if we have the opportunity to inspire, I think that's, you know, that's kind of like the greatest representation of our time we spent here.
Now, a few months ago, you won the Georgia Outstanding Citizen Award and the Presidential Award as well. What does that mean to you to be recognized for that?
I appreciate it. It means that there's obviously someone is paying attention to some of the things that I'm doing, and that I'm on the right track. And I'm gonna continue to do, you know, I'm gonna continue to do good and try to spend my time making efforts to be of service.
Okay. Now, DJ Drama, you've known him for a very long time. You work very closely with him. Mm-hmm. He's one of the most iconic in history.
Right.
Can you talk about watching his career at an early age, and how proud are you of him?
Man, I think, man, Drama has done his thing, man. Drama has represented himself. He's represented the city, well, Atlanta and Philly, you know. He come from the AUC, you know what I mean? He came down here, went to school, and kind of, you know, as most people did, got captivated by the energy of Atlanta, never left, and built an empire here, you know. And I remember, man, going, Drummer was another, he was another one. He called me to his house. They were staying in Old Fourth Ward at the time. He called me to his house, and he was making a mixtape. He was making a mixtape in his front living room, and he asked me to just, you know, kind of do a freestyle. He asked me to, you know, to rap. I said, all right, bet. So, of course, I tore it down in the verse. I said, King of the South. And he like, King of the South? What you mean by King of the South? I said, I meant what I said. He like, man. I said, yeah, okay. Go ahead, run with it. And it was a temple tapper. He was kind of, you know, concerned. I said, man, don't worry about it, bro. Just put it out there the way it is. I deal with whatever pressure come with it. And he did. And I think one of the first gangster grill was PSC in the Streets.
Can you talk about the process of how music has changed over the years? You guys were promoting your mixtapes and promoting them in the streets in different places, and how it is now with social media, with the internet, with all the different changes in music. And
I think DJ Drummer, man, had a large hand in changing the industry and the way the industry viewed and respected mixtapes, and he did that with great sacrifice. There was the feds came and raided. Drummer had a Fed case for mixtapes, basically. You know what I mean? People large corporations who were distributing music and who were used to things being done a certain way, they saw Drama as a threat. They saw mixtapes as a threat. You know what I'm saying? It infringed upon their profits because they were getting music to people faster and more directly. And they were kind of like bypassing the distributors. And the distributors didn't like that, but it happened in such a way, it had such an impact that the distributors had to roll with it eventually. And anytime you can change a system that was already in place and has been in place for decades, generations, that amount of impact is legendary. And I think Drama is definitely one of the most responsible ones for that impact and for that change in music.
Absolutely. Now, again, talking about impact in music, when I was 8, I wanted to be like Ludacris. I also wanted to go to Georgia State like Ludacris did.
Okay.
And earlier this year, of course, he got his honorary degree from Georgia State.
That's dope.
Which is pretty amazing. Just that impact. Can you talk about how important it is to just not look at someone for inspiration, but just to be able to uplift yourself in times of trials and tribulations?
Well, I mean, for me, man, I've always been aficionado of adversity, if you will. So, I mean, I've always taken tough times. I've taken tragedies and turned them into triumph. That's kind of like, that's what keep me going, you know what I mean? In times of comfort and convenience, you know, I'm having a good time, but I'm not really projecting and producing the best quality art that I could. It's times when in conflict and confusion, when I rise to the occasion with my back against the wall, and you know things are going the worst or seemingly going the worst for me, when I pull out the best out of myself. And I think the same can be for others. You just have to believe in yourself. You just have to, you know, just know that this too shall pass. But while you in this moment, pull the best out yourself. You know what I mean? Don't let it tear you down to the point where you aren't continuing to be creative, where you aren't continuing to think, continuing to challenge yourself and pull greatness from you, because that is the moment in which you got the greatest of yourself to offer.
Okay. Now, okay. What is next for you? What do you think
What's
is
next for me?
You've done so many different things in business and music.
I mean, I'm gonna get ready to open this restaurant. You know, a lot of these people that come on in here, man, have lamb chops and hot wings. Nah, I'm just joking, man.
Do you feel like you have
something
more to accomplish?
Man, yes. Every day I wake up, I have something more to accomplish. I'm going to continue to offer experiences to the community. Going to continue to offer opportunities to artists and creatives around me who deserve it. Speaking of, another thing that I think should be mentioned, we also want to celebrate.
4-year anniversary of the Trap Music Museum.
Okay, there's a 4-year anniversary of the Trap Music Museum. There's a 20-year anniversary of trap music, 50-year anniversary of hip hop. But in this place specifically, in addition to celebrating the artists, we also want to celebrate other forms of art. That's why, you know, we have legendary people like photographer Cam Kurt, who he's responsible for all the photographs that you see on the wall in here. You know what I'm saying? So it's where culture and art collide. You know, that's where we find the sweet spot of Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You have the streets, business, culture, community, art, all of these things intersect right here at the Trap City Cafe, and that's what's important to me. So continuing to create opportunities, continuing to create experiences and offer experiences to the people of the community. That's what I see in my future.
Okay, and before we wrap up, I just want to get into the Trap Music Museum, the 4-year anniversary of that. You guys have done so many different community events and different things. What does the Trap Music Museum mean to you?
The Trap Music Museum to me means us being able to tell our story in our own voice, creating our own narrative before some other outside entity can do it for us. That's what the Trap Music Museum means to me.
And I know there's a lot of behind the scenes staff, CJ, Anira, Adila, Brittany, you know,
Absolutely.
A lot of different people that do so much behind the scenes with art. Can you talk about them a little bit? The staff just as a whole.
Man, okay, so behind the scenes at the Trap Music Museum, behind the scenes here at the Trap City Cafe, any entity, even at Bankhead Seafood, any entity, any establishment that I have, okay, I'm probably at the forefront, but there is a huge team of people in many different areas of business that allow me, you know, to be creative, and they kind of push buttons, pull strings, you know, and execute ideas alongside me. And the Trap Music Museum is no different. It's been that way ever since the conception of Grand Hustle.
Okay. Thank you.
Right
I appreciate it. You're known as T.I., T.I.P., King of the South.